Hello, lovely. Welcome to this week's episode of Lotus Life the Podcast. My name is Rose Tautari, and I am, among many things in this lifetime, a human design guide, a soul mentor, an author, and a podcaster. And this is a show where each week we get to hang out and chat about all things human design. I'm here to teach you how you can thrive in your most aligned life by empowering yourself to understand your unique soul's purpose. Human design is a beautiful synthesis bringing together ancient wisdom and modern science, and is a way of understanding the contract between your soul and the universe for who you came here to be, what you came here to do, and what karma you came to correct this lifetime around. This podcast, Lotus Life, is a celebration of embodying the lotus flower that blooms and thrives, growing from even the murkiest of conditions in life. Get ready to lotus your life. I am so grateful, so humbled to share my beautiful guest, Patsy KAINUKU, who is the Voyaging Soul. Patsy is a spiritual guide. She's a coach. She empowers people to find clarity, identify their superpowers, and integrate those gifts into their day-to-day life. We pressed record on a double reading to share with you, and if you caught it in part one of this double reading, if you listened in on the previous episode to this one, I gave a human design chart reading for Patsy. We pressed record while I read for her, who is a manifesting generator with sacral authority, and she has a 2-5 profile with a defined sacral, spleen, G-center, heart, throat, and Ajna, undefined emotional center, the solar plexus, and open root and crown chakras, just to give you the background. And in today's episode, I am really excited to share the second part to our incredible, just mind-expanding conversation where we basically turned the microphone around and Patsy read for me as part of her gifts to share of soul mapping. And I wanted to just share a little backstory of how we first connected, because I feel like that would be really I love this story, so I just wanted to share it before we get into this episode. So it was essentially through a mutual couple of friends of ours that I first heard about Patsy's work as the Voyaging Soul, and I booked a reading with her almost immediately, as I think I saw that she had spaces available that coming weekend to do readings, which she does by, in this case, this instance, this type of reading, by sending through photos. And that is what Patsy is incredibly gifted at, being able to read based on the photos sent through. So we had never spoken, we'd never connected, we'd never DM'd each other, nothing. I pretty much followed her on Instagram, and then like a day later booked this reading. And for my photos I sent through, I sent a photo of myself. I sent a photo of my hand holding my crystals that I work with regularly. And I then sent a third photo that was my hand holding 2 rings that I wear the most frequently. And honestly, when Patsy sent me her voice notes of my reading, I was this just puddle of happy tears the whole time I was listening to what came through for her. And for someone who doesn't cry, I don't often cry with my completely open solar plexus emotional center. It's really not common for me to cry over something. And just one of the most amazing parts that really stood out for me and that I wanted to share with you is that straight away she said, like the first voice note was, I've been seeing your ring in my dreams for about 6 months now. And she didn't know who or where or why she was seeing it. And then just boom, one day I show up in her Instagram DMs booking this reading and giving her a photo of my ring. So yeah. And when I chose those photos, it was like, there was no real particular reason that I sent them through. Like I literally only sort of thought about, okay, well, let's share something that is imbued with a lot of my energy. That was the only thing that I could think of in terms of like sending through photos. So there was no like, please send me photos of these items. It was just me on my own choosing what I thought would be the most beneficial for giving a reading. So yeah, I just love this woman so much, and I'm so grateful to be able to share her magic with you all in this episode. So just to kind of give you a frame of what soul mapping is, what you'll hear us talking through today is a modality that Patsy shares, and what it allows us to do is share space together, to share breath at the start that you'll hear us do. Then essentially the way soul mapping works is that my team of guides, light beings, spirit guides, whoever wants to come through in that moment, that's who we're listening to. It's not a channeled message, but kind of like a passing on of the messages, basically a conversation where Patsy acts as the go-between. And this is something that the two of us got together to do once before, about 3 months ago. And what I think is really fascinating is when we first connect, you'll hear in this episode that the audio completely changes when she first starts reading for me. And trust me, like nothing got touched. It's nothing that either of us did to our computers or our microphones, but you'll hear it in the audio, just like straight away it changes. And while we were connected, the physical sensation I was feeling was really incredible. And this is something that I'm discovering more about myself as I explore my own intuitive gifts and abilities to connect to my guides, to my light beings, myself, is that when I go into that process, the inner part of my ears gets really, the only way I can describe it is like really high pressure when the connection begins. And it's like this pulsing kind of energy running through my inner ears on both sides. So yeah, there's kind of like, I just wanted to share that because there's a lot going on outside of just the audio that you'll hear in terms of like the physical experience. So I just wanted to share that with you so you can get an idea of like the whole experience. We started off by answering some of the questions that you sent through as we prepared to record this episode. So thank you to all of you lovely souls that sent in some questions. You're amazing. And I hope you really enjoy this episode. Yeah, it was so awesome to be able to record this and share this with you. So I hope you love it. I hope you really enjoy. Okay, let's get into it. Let's dive on in. So, Patsy, I had a couple of questions sent in from my community when I said that we were going to be recording podcast episodes together, and I'd love to run them by you to see what, wisdom you can share in terms of your world and your amazing gifts that you've got. So the first question that I thought we could start with is, can you sort of describe in your own words what your spiritual gifts are that you have or that you practice with regularly? Because I know you've probably got things that you can tap into but maybe don't use as regularly as your others.
Yep. So from my own perspective, because our body is our tool, is one of our most important, most amazing spiritual tools that we have. And I believe that everybody has the ability to be able to hear, see, smell, taste, and feel. We're more intuitively able to feel. So we all have the ability to be able to feel. But those 5 things, those senses, allow for us to be able to use our body as a tool spiritually, first and foremost. And I think many of us on a journey, all of us really, we've been able to do one of those 5 things, all of us. The first ever spiritual gift that I had beyond those 5 things was my ability to see people's potential, and what it looks like for me, what it feels like for me, what it sounds like for me, all of those things. Is I could look at somebody and see beyond the narrative that they were sharing with me, beyond the assessment my human was making about them and their situation, because we do that. We do assess other people. That's what we do. And it started off with like somebody would be saying something to me, but what I could see was inconsistent. So it was me being able to see, I know that you're sitting in this space and then it's a really dark space, but what I could actually see was them sitting in the light, or I could see them achieving these things, or I could see their vision, see their goals. And that happened for me when I was quite young, and has been really the foundational spiritual gift that I've had, or that I have, that has helped me grow my other gifts that I have. So my ability to do that actually strengthened my ability to be able to see. So I can see fully, I can see in color, I can see in all different ways. But a lot of my work is to support people to make sense of what their gifts are, and then to how is it that you activate them, integrate them, work with them in a way in which that is safe, or that you feel safe. How do you practice with them? The other gifts that I have are around like soul mapping or soul messages that I do. So it's about being able to connect with other people's guides, with their kaitiaki, with their guides, whether they be in this life or from previous lives or future lives. And those are the ones that I use really actively. Other gifts that I have that I'm starting to master is that my voice, my energy can be, or is healing for other people. I sort of bring it out sometimes unknowingly, unconsciously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that I still am trying to come to terms with, to know that the way in which that I speak actually supports people in their journeys and stuff. But that's a difficult, it's a one that some days I'm like, yep, and then other days I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And I think that's so true for a lot of women in particular in this lifetime, is that, they might know that their voice has got some element of a gift to share, but depending on what has happened to them in the past or even past lifetimes or whatever, the case may be, they don't feel safe to use their voice. So yeah, which is probably something that you can see very clearly for other people, but is it hard to turn it around and use those gifts on yourself?
No, for me, what's been important for me is that I've applied these things to myself.
Yeah.
In various ways, but it's things that I've applied to myself, all the things that I know I've applied or practiced on myself. I think that's been a really important thing. Collectively my gifts, and there are others, there's many, because for me the most important gifts that we have are our experiences. But collectively, the majority of the work that I've done has always been about supporting people to release trauma from the body. So that's been a majority of the work that I've done, and supporting people to make sense of their narrative and develop skills and knowledge, or develop a framework or modality for them to be able to change their narrative in a way in which that serves them and adds value. So much, even though this voice thing, I'm still like, okay, what does that mean? Words are really important and powerful tools for all of us, superpowers for all of us. So
yeah. And I mean, this is something that really fascinates me, is that, would you say that intuitive gifts are something that you have? I mean, we already have, I already know kind of what the answer is going to be, but in terms of sharing this question, are intuitive gifts something that anyone can access, or do you have to kind of be like specially selected by the universe to be someone who has
anyone can access them.
Yeah.
Anyone can access them. And my work, as I move forward, I know that that's the space that I need, like with what I know about my own gifts, my own superpowers, So much of what it is that I do and will continue to do moving forward is to support other people to unlock their superpowers, to tap into their gifts, whatever they are. I think it's really important that no two gifts will ever be the same. So the way in which that I experience things and the way that you experiences things will always be unique to us. We might be able to both be able to see, but the way that I do it and the way that you do it are going to be unique to us.
Yeah. No, I love that, because I think for a long time I was probably conditioned, especially when I was young, to think that it was only something that a certain kind of hand-picked few of people, or you had to be told by someone you are special. That was something I had to work through a lot myself, that I was very much raised with that kind of way of thinking, that unless you were kind of singled out and told, like in a movie, like you find people in a movie script who are like, oh no, you're the chosen one to have these gifts. Like, yeah, no.
And we're and so much of the work that I've done, that's the theme. It's a common theme that people are waiting for permission. People are waiting for permission from somebody that they perceive to be higher than themselves. We sit and we wait for me as well. I sat in a position for a long time where I was waiting for permission to be able to practice with my gifts, with my superpowers.
Yeah. No, that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And another question sort of on that, in that vein, is for anyone who's just starting out on their spiritual journey, maybe connecting with their guides, exploring their gifts, do you have any recommendations for how to sort of get in flow with that or stay in flow with that? I think the essence of this question was more or less saying, in that initial phase when you're first kind of finding your feet with it, it feels like it kind of comes and goes, and it's not this consistent thing that you can tap into all the time.
Because you and I have shared space before, one of the most important messages that I like to share with people that are anywhere in their journey is, first and foremost, we are always connected. We always are. It's just our humans trying to make sense of what's happening. We talk about connection, we talk about connect and disconnect, like we talk about that quite freely, but the reality is that we're always connected. Quite often I'll have people that say, I've felt an energy around me, but I don't feel it anymore. You probably don't feel it anymore because you don't need that energy to support you in whatever it is that you're navigating. But it's really important to train your mind, your body. You are connected. We are always connected. Our human perceives that we're not, but we always are.
So is that almost an element of giving yourself, almost like not being so hard on yourself, like so hard on your human, to actually go, well, doesn't matter what your human might think is going on, you are actually always tapped in and connected all the time?
Well, if we even think about mind, body, and soul, here's the body, here's the mind, here's the soul. It's connected.
Yeah. So of course it doesn't just suddenly disappear, or like your flow state doesn't disappear. It's always there.
And at any one time, we can be looking at things from different perspectives. And what you'll find in your journey, when you look back on it, when you reflect on it, everything was always there. You often hear that, oh, it was always there. Oh, well, it was there. It was sitting right in front of me. You hear that all the time. It's that we sit in a space where we're exploring things differently, but that helps us grow. It helps us. It helps us.
And then just another question, lastly, was basically around what soul mapping is, and kind of leads us really nicely into the reading that you're very kindly going to give for me today. Is what is soul mapping, how it works, and like how you kind of read for someone.
So the essence of soul mapping is around finding clarity. It's around finding a starting point for somebody. in their journey. And I don't mean a beginning point. I mean, we've been through some stuff, we've been on a bit of a journey, and we get to that point where we feel stuck, and we all do it. We all get to that point. So it really is about finding clarity, finding a starting point. Soul mapping allows for us to be able to connect directly with soul from soul to soul, and then invite in any guides, any kaitiaki, any spirit animals, past lives, into a space where we can collectively draw from them and find the clarity that's going to support us, empower us to be able to continue on our journey. Soul mapping, it is always going to be unique to the individual, which is because we are unique beings. For some people, they will come in and they will experience being able to explore past, present, and future. For some people, it would be just around future. For some people, it will be around present. For some people, they'll go back 8 lives. So it really is unique to the person that comes in, shares that space. Soul mapping maps out where you have been and where you can go to, because like a map, we need to know where we're at so that we can navigate where it is that we're going to.
Yeah.
It is like a big meeting with all your guides. So that's how I usually describe it to people. But it really is having a spiritual map. And sometimes it's that spiritual map that unlocks and releases us so that we can continue to navigate and voyage our journey.
And I love that you call it mapping out, like you say, that knowing how to get to where we're going when we've got that map in front of us and that clarity that comes with that. And so for you actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but you predominantly read for people, let's say online, don't you? In terms of, I know the in-person, you've been sort of starting to say if anyone is interested, but for the most part, you've been doing online space, haven't you? Yeah.
With people all around the world. And for me personally, the way in which that I practice when I am providing guidance, because I would consider this a form of guidance for people, is that I always do it in a way where I'm connecting with your guides. So I'm always connecting. So I don't draw upon my own guides for this. I connect with your guides. That's to ensure that the information that comes through is really specific. It's really important that in soul mapping and soul messages that you get some practical things to do. So that's another element that I bring into the way in which that I do that, is because it's all very well to know where to start, but what are the practical things? What are some of the practical things that we can be doing, or that you can be doing, to support you to navigate?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I resonate so much with you and your work, that it's got that element of practical and tangible to it, that there's something to follow. Because I think we've talked about this before, that, you know, for me with my design, I relate and respond really well to something that's a bit more structured or has got those sort of steps to follow, whereas for someone else who maybe is more of that, I'll say like the feminine brain energetic expression, you know, they can take something that's very ethereal and just absorb that and you know, go forward. But for me, when I get something that's too ethereal, it's like I can't process that very easily, you know. So I do love that you bring in that element of going, okay, well, this is all the guidance, but this is how you also take that and do something with it. Because obviously you could spend a lot of time giving people messages and then that's it, right?
The practicality of it makes it sustainable, because I talk to people all the time about you need a practice, you need a practice, and what practice looks like is unique to you, like it is unique to me. But it's about reprogramming the brain or the body to be able to engage with the journey. Because as soon as it gets uncomfortable, human doesn't want to engage. Human's like, oh no, what do we got to do? What are where are we at? That's what I love about soul mapping. It's what I love about it so much, is that it brings a practical component so that people can start implementing, can start building a narrative that allows for their change or their journey to be sustainable.
And I'll say that I really enjoy the work you do, because I think it complements so much, in terms of my sphere of what I do with human design. I feel like this really helps because it can give you those sort of, as you say, more tangible steps, because human design isn't prescriptive. It doesn't give you like a 10-step user manual, like this is your purpose, this is what you need to do to fulfill it. Whereas something like the work you do with soul mapping gives you that sort of almost like map to follow, to go, well, this is where you need to sort of explore, and gives you a little bit of that kind of clarity around what direction to go in.
Because for me, spirituality, what guides my practice is that, for me, spirituality is making sense of the things that we cannot see. And when we are faced with barriers, when we're feeling stuck, it's because we don't yet have the knowing to navigate through those barriers. We just don't have the process yet to be able to do it. Soul mapping, so everything that I do, not just soul mapping, everything that I do is, I am a tool. I understand that I am a tool, and for the people that I'm engaging with. Everything inside of you is a gift. Everything outside of you is a tool. So I am here to be utilized for you to be able to connect, for you to be, even though we're already connected, but for you to be able to have the conversations, mind, body, and soul, that you need to with your guides, until you are at a point in which that you are able to do that yourself. Because that's the sustainable bit for me. I don't want people to come and see me for 10 years. I know that I'm doing what I need to do when people are able to take the learnings, not from me, from yourself, from your own guides. I'm here as a tool. And implement those, integrate those, and move on with your journey. Yeah.
I really love that way of putting it, because it's, as you say, it's not them becoming like a crutch that you're leaning on to go, well, I can't make a decision without consulting Patsy, for example. So before we get into you reading for me, I'd love it if you can share where everyone listening can connect with you, where they can find you, where they can come and be a part of your incredible world. Give us all the things.
So on Facebook, it's Patsy D KAINUKU. I also have a private group on Facebook where we discuss all the things. Instagram, my handle's at the Voyaging Soul, and on Instagram, on my Facebook page, and on Facebook, there's a link to my website. So all of the things, all my current offerings are over on my website.
Yeah, which is exciting, because that's a new thing you've just launched, isn't it?
Yeah, so I launched it last week, I think. Yeah, last week it was. So that's www.voyagingsouls.com.
Lovely. And your Facebook group is the same, isn't it? Voyaging Souls?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And we'll put all the links in with the show notes with this episode as well, so people can find you and come and connect and be part of your amazing space that you hold for everyone. Yeah. Oh, and thank you so much for covering all those questions as well. I think people are going to get real awesome value out of this, because I think it's so important to talk about it from that point of view of, it's not just some elitist thing that only certain people are able to access. I think it's great.
What makes it elite, what makes it, even me, it's what makes it, think about it like this. It's not elitist. All of us are on a spiritual journey in some way, shape, or form. But what makes it is that we all have our own uniqueness. We all have our own, our own gifts, our own superpowers, whatever it is that, whatever that looks like for you. But for me, I'm like, I want to know what you can do. I want to know what you can do.
Yeah. Not what somebody else has sort of told you that it's supposed to look like or be like. Yeah. Amazing. Well, shall we try to change direction a little bit,
Yes.
change momentum, and if you're happy to, we can dive into you giving a reading for me, which is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this as well, because I think it's really, I know for myself, I've really got value out of hearing when other people on their podcasts and things have shared some of these sort of gifts and experiences, because I think it helps for people to just sort of see it's not some, you know, big thing that you can't have access to, you know, it's for anyone and everyone.
It is. It's for anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the way in which that I always start soul mapping is for you and I to share breath. And the reason that you and I share breath is because breath creates space, but breath is also a universal language because it allows for whoever needs to come and sit and support and share space with us for them to be able to come. It's really important for me to highlight that why breath is important is because in Te Reo Māori, aroha, which is referred to as love, aroha actually means the direction of breath. Awesome. When you're ready.
Yeah, yep, let's do it.
So we're going to take a really deep breath through our nose and out. Ha ki roto. Ha ki waho. Ha ki roto. Ha ki waho. Ha ki roto. Ha ki waho. One more. Ha ki roto. Ha ki waho. Airi ora. No mai hara mai ki tēnei wā. So that's just welcoming you and everyone to this space. And the first and only question that I ask is, what is it that has brought you to this moment?
Oh, seeking of clarity, but I also want to say that I feel that everything has brought me to this moment. It's this big collective energy.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say for our listeners, the reason in which that I breathe, it's important because what I'm doing is I'm actually breathing your energy into my tool, into my body, so that I'm able to feel not only you, but your guides. Awesome. So Rose and I have soul mapped before, and some of what's coming through is in relation to some of the things that I have been identified previously from us connecting. One of the things that's been, really there for you is around these conversations that you've been having with your cards and the bringing together of different packs and using them as a way in which to be able to find clarity for yourself, but it's almost been like an affirmation. It's almost been like these conversations around affirming the journey you're on, the pathway that you're on, and really providing or supporting you to develop a knowing where you continue to give yourself permission. Continue to acknowledge and continue to accept that you do have these amazing gifts, and that there is a part of it is that you are here to share them in whatever way, shape, or form that you feel you want to be able to do that, because that's really important. What's really interesting is what I know is that you've recently purchased some of the bowls, and I knew that this was going to come.
Yeah.
I knew that this was going to come into the reading, these bowls.
Yeah.
So previously, in the previous times that we've connected, there's always been a sound element, like that within the sound, these sounds that around you, that is a part of your own modality, like it's a part of the way in which that you will practice. So we've talked about it before, that human design is a tool for you. It sits outside of. These bowls are a tool for you. It sits outside of. But what's really interesting is that this female energy that's come through before, so the female energy is almost like an angel goddess. I think the first time that she came in, she had wings.
Mm.
Yeah. So she's come in, and what she's talking about is that these bowls are actually a representation of the co-creation, the co-creating that you and your partner have around how it is that you move forward.
Mm.
That it's something that you'll bring into practice, and it will make sense as you feel your way with it. Like it's not going to be you're not going to get downloads about what it is that you need to be doing with these bowls. You'll feel your way into it. Your body will know. You'll know when to pick it up. It might make no sense to anyone else, but you'll know. You'll feel drawn. Maybe 3 a.m. But you'll feel drawn at random, what would feel like random for you, but you'll be drawn to play them and move with them differently. Move with them differently. The vision that she's providing for me is that you're sitting on a hill overlooking the sea, and it's your partner that's holding the bowls. I know he's only got 2 hands, but he's got big hands. You know what I mean? But he's holding the bowls, and you're sort of like tapping, going backwards one to the other. It's the vibration that you guys are co-creating that's really important for you to be able to focus on. It's the vibration of what's being created and from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That makes a lot of sense. He's just as much a part of the work that I do. It might not be, the way I immediately interpret that is that it's not the visible side. He's like the support kind of behind the scenes that the world doesn't see necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're sitting on the hill, but he's sort of like, he's not under you, but his hands are reaching up under you, holding these bowls. These bowls are a representation, a physical representation, which I know is really important for you, but it's a physical representation of the healing vibration that you send out when it is that you're doing what you're doing now in your practice, and that it will transform the more in which that you focus on what your gifts are and how you use tools to be able to share your gifts.
Yeah, like the vehicle to be able to give that out into the world, because obviously that's one of the things that I often explore within myself, that I know I am not designed to be someone who can give myself endlessly one-on-one to help heal others. It needs to be something that is more able to reach a wider audience to do the work that I'm here to do. Yeah.
And the other thing that she's bringing as well is that the piece of work that you'll do with your partner, and I don't want it to sound blunt, but in assigning him a role, the work that you'll do with him and assigning him a role, because he is behind the scenes, he is a part of everything that you do. But that work that you do, how you navigate that, will support you to navigate how it is that you build your team. Because a part of what it is that you're doing is that you're building and constructing your own modality, and there's several tools that you use and will use, and other tools that you will use as you resonate or come across them in your journey. But what's really important is that you know that you need the team to do the work that you're here to do.
Yes.
But for them to be able to come into the space, you have to be able to create the car park, really, for them to come and park in it.
Yeah. Rather than standing at the gate with it like padlocked, like, no, I can do it all myself. I don't need.
So there's a male energy that's coming in as well, and the male energy is actually connected to your partner. I've connected with this energy before. An older male energy, but he's coming in, and what he's talking about is that this is not about you it's not about you building a business. It's not about you needing to have an accountant or other, what he's referring to as physical roles. What it is that it's bringing in mentoring other people to be able to do the work that needs to be done, because they will always do it in their own way. But a part of the journey for you is to have a team of practitioners. Practitioners might not be the right, but it's having a team of other practitioners, other workers that come and work alongside you, but that you mentor into the space. They will share their own uniqueness, but it's like you'll provide a learning environment for them.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah. Almost that, I don't know if facilitating is the right word, but kind of bringing people together that have got their own unique set of gifts, and if one of the things I can do is create the space for them to come in and share. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a center. Like, I don't mean a center as in a physical center form. I mean center. He's talking about center, but it's like a middle place, like a grounding place, a center for people to be able to come in to mentor each other, really. But you're the holder of that space.
That's so interesting, because something that had been coming up for me recently was almost that exploring creating like a physical representation of that, of some sort of physical place where people could come and go to a retreat, or and bring in those people that I already know have got incredible gifts to share, to say, hey, look, I'm going to bring you in and you can share your gifts. And so that's really interesting that that's come through.
It's sort of like, I know I'm a manager and I'm random, but it's not going to it won't make sense to anybody else. It'll make sense to you. And the more that you make sense of it, the more that it will come to life. But the people are looking for the car parks,
Yeah.
And I don't want to use assigning roles as too much. It's too strong, but it's creating space for people to feel that they can come.
Yeah. And I get the way I feel about it is that it's almost like that you can drop in and out of it as you need. It's not something fixed that you have to take part in all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing that he talks about, there's a like female energy connected to him, but both of them are connected to your partner. But it's more like collectively they're like, keep going, keep going. You're not leading him and he's not leading you. You're co-creators in whatever this looks like. But it's you continuing to move forward is what you need to contribute to the space that you and him are co-creating. This is not you leading, it's not you contributing more, or it's not you showing him how to do things. He knows how to do it. It's just that this is, and co-creating in the space that you and him are creating, this space has its own values. It has its own guiding principles. The way in which that lives and breathes has its own uniqueness. That's not you and that's not him. It's that you are co-creating, you are both contributing. It's not about contributing equally. It's not about if I'm doing something, he's got to be doing something. You have an understanding that you will koha to the space when it is that you are drawn to do it, or you will gift. Koha means gift, but you will gift to that space when it is that you feel that you need to do it. But the where you're at now is that you are both contributing, because it will get to a point where it's not going to be about you contributing or co-creating that space. It will be created, and it will be created in this life, and it will become the sanctuary that you need to be able to continue the work that you're going to be doing, which makes sense in terms of bringing people together. And I'm saying people, but creating a center for souls. Because it is the same thing, but there's different ways in which that you will, and you know this, that you'll call it, and there'll be the physical element to that, but then how you navigate drawing or bringing the souls in is going to be really important as well.
Yeah, because there's such an element to it that is, as you say, the virtual kind of space that you can create for souls to connect, and then there's the element that for a lot of people, you know, in their human, they need that physical place. The virtual world doesn't necessarily always work. For me, I love it. It suits me perfectly fine, because I enjoy that, being able to sort of be in my own space so much. But I know that it's something that's definitely been kind of tapping at the on my shoulder, saying this is something to keep exploring.
So what's coming through as well is that it's really important for you to allow yourself to engage with this new tool, these bowls, in a way in which that you're just feeling drawn to it. There's no structure around, they need to be played at this time, and this is what other people would do at these bowls. How you do it is only going to be for you, because it's about vibration creation for you. It's about creating a vibration that will call in the sanctuary for souls and for humans. This space, the center, this sanctuary, it's about a space of like, it's like a collegial support, collegial mentoring. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Like that sort of, probably I'll say working with, in the loosest terms, but working with people who maybe already their business is kind of in some sort of healing modality or spiritual realm, that it's not just sort of, not so much just necessarily someone who might be like, I just want to go meditate once a week, but the rest of my life is lived kind of not interacting with anything of that nature. But yeah.
The reality is it makes sense, because so many of us that work within this space, it can be a lonely space. And sometimes the way in which that we reach for support is that we continue to reach outside of ourselves, where this message that's coming through for you is about being able to sit within self, but co-sit with other souls. Look, even though we're always on a learning journey, this is what I'm getting, especially from this female energy that's connected to you. It's not a place of, it's not a place of learning. It's a place of being like spiritual colleague, where we get to where you support each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of
that it's that, as you say, it's sort of people who already practicing or developing or whatever, or already have their own established kind of community or business or whatever the case may be. But bringing them together to sort of connect and grow and
So there's two things. There's the collegial support, and then there's the mentorship of people coming into the space, people that are new to the space. So there's two messages there, that the bowls represent they're a physical element for your human to be able to explore vibration, and how it is that vibration is used not only in your own individual work that you do, not only in the work that you do, but in calling, and you being able to call in things around this mentorship, and then things around this collegial support.
That's amazing, because that's very much been something that has been, I guess, a message that I've had kind of come through for me, is that by having, using these bowls, like you say, as a tool, it's actually working, kind of intertwining it with the human design work that I do, understanding where people might specifically need that energetic support in terms of their design. Yeah. Wow.
It makes sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Yeah. Of being able to look at someone's chart and say, okay, well, you've got this many white centers. These are where you need the most like nourishment and support and energetic healing. Yeah.
And because that's what we talked about that in the earlier soul mapping that we had, is that one of the gifts that you have is like you can sit and look at somebody, whether in physical form or soul form, that you can connect with somebody and you can actually see their human design sitting within them.
Yeah, which is really hard to kind of, I guess, at the start I was kind of like, oh, who am I to do this or to see this or to understand this? But that's really, again, it's almost my permission slip to know that actually that's one of the things that I'm here to do. Yeah.
The other thing is too is that these bowls actually represent how it is that seeing doesn't necessarily mean that we use our eyes.
Yeah.
But those bowls represent vibration that you can also see. That is another gift that you do have, whether you engage in it or not. Vibration is really important because it's the energy flow between you and the person in which that you're sharing space with. Because like me, you're not physically sharing space with people all the time. Those bowls are a physical representation of the energy that you're sharing backwards and forwards. When you did my human design read for me, I felt like you were speaking to each part of my design.
Yeah.
But a part of this journey for you is giving yourself permission to continue to practice, but also acknowledging and accepting that these are your gifts.
Yeah, I think that's the way you've just put that is really resonates for me, because I think that kind of goes back to that, almost what we were, one of the questions I was saying earlier, that of kind of acknowledging in myself that it is okay for me to have sort of my own uniqueness, that there's, to celebrate that about myself.
Your energy, that vibration, your energy, your tool, your ability to see, feel, hear, smell, taste, that's yours. Those are your gifts. Human design is a tool. So you're utilizing your gifts, but the more in which that you explore your own gifts and you practice with them, the more, I believe, you're being able to make sense of how it is that those things are different, but how they can work in synergy for you to be able to share your amazingness with the world.
Yeah, because obviously it's kind of an obvious statement to make, but you each of us has to have a way of sharing what it is that we're here to do, right? Because otherwise it's just something that you might sort of sit and enjoy yourself, but how do you get it out and actually then use it to help others or guide others or share it with others?
It's the same as soul mapping. Soul mapping is a tool. Soul mapping is a tool. It wasn't created by me. It's a tool. It's a modality that I engage in external to myself to be able to share the gifts that I have that sit within me.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, I really, really resonate with that. Yeah.
Did you have any questions? Was there any questions of your guides before we close the space?
I feel like when you ask me that, I do have so many questions, and then it's like my mind just goes blank. Yeah, like I think it really is just the confirmation that it's kind of, yeah, almost in a way of going like, it's not just that you're making things up, I think is probably one of the biggest things that I've had to wrestle with myself.
Yeah.
So having that kind of, and I know we shouldn't look to outside confirmation too much, but that's been something that's really been powerful, is to know that, okay, well, it's not just me making something up. It's not just me imagining things. This is actually what's happening, and what is true for me in this lifetime. Yeah.
Well, it is like you are speaking with yourself, because you are with your own guides. I'm just a tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and this is why the work that I do is so amazing, and why I'm so good at what I do is because I understand my role in this. I understand my role as a tool, and sharing this space where people can have these conversations with self to be able to gain the clarity, but the confirmation and affirmation that they need to continue on their journey. Because at some point you will be having these conversations with yourself.
Yeah. 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 It's so interesting as well for me, like you just saying that, the getting more familiar with the way in which the senses that are associated with my connection as well. So interesting is like when you first connected and started talking, like the physical sensation for me is like often like inside my ears, like it's that real, like it feels like it's really like pulsing right inside my ears, and I'm getting more and more familiar with some of those signs and expressions that come through to understand that that's what's going on. Yeah. Yeah.
And because when you go and play like the practicality of, these are the messages that have come through for you. These messages provide clarity. Well, several starting points for you, really, several things for you to be able to consider. It's really important for people to know within soul mapping, I'm not giving you advice. I'm not giving you my own perspective on what it is that I think should happen. Everything comes from your own guides, and that's the safety in it. That's what it ensures, that this space is safe, but it keeps me safe and it keeps you safe, But the other thing as well is that the practical thing for you is that when you're playing those bowls, you're feeling it. You're feeling the vibration. You hear it. I guarantee that if it is that you started using your sense of smell, you will start smelling things that are not in front of you. You will start smelling spiritual places that you've been, places of childhood, places of previous life. I guarantee it.
Wow, that's interesting.
Because these physical things have been brought to you to train your most important tool, your body, for your body to practice, so that you're able to use all of your amazingness, so you're able to bring it all in.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I'd never really considered myself to be someone who's got this fantastic sense of smell, but I do know that even something, and I'll use the example of when I went to pick up the singing bowls, the smell of the incense and the place that they had been just took me straight back to other spaces and places that I've been, in my childhood growing up in Southeast Asia, and that very spiritual world that is so intertwined with just everyday life, that growing up in that kind of environment where it is the two aren't separate, that that world of living in that kind of, always in that space of connection. Yeah. I know. I was just like inhaling the scent of the boxes. The incense smell was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the way that it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Wow.
So it wasn't by So even though we had planned to do this last week, it happened when it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Very much so. Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. That obviously there was needed to be after I'd been and done that trip and collected them and brought them back home. Yeah.
So you had any other questions or comments or?
Just, I think always like my question is just that, and I think it's a very possibly a common question that a lot of people have, of that kind of wanting to know you're on the right track, I think is always something that my human side always wants to ask, because I can straight away answer it myself and go, well, yeah, of course I am. But I think that's always one of the questions that I do have, is that kind of, you know, do my guides have any comments of that kind of nature? Like
What's been really amazing about this, and what happens in so many of the soul mappings that I do, is that you've had this beautiful angel like guide that has come through, but you've also had two guides that are connected to your partner. And I hope collectively, by having your own guides, me, and then two guides that are connected to your partner, you are on the right track. But you can feel that in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so, and I find that so interesting as well, that it's, you know, not even necessarily my own guides that have come through, you know. That's really beautiful.
But they've come through, the guides that have chosen to come through have come through because in sharing that breath, you and I sharing breath, and then opening that breath up to bring in whoever, whatever needs to come in to support you in this moment. That's how powerful you are, because you've called these energies to be able to support you to find the clarity for how it is that you move forward or continue to move forward. I didn't bring them in, you did.
You're just the messenger.
Just the messenger.
Yeah. No.
Awesome.
It's amazing. Thank you. You're just so, I always just come away from any of our conversations just feeling so incredible. So yeah, it's always amazing.
So the one last thing, when it is that we soul map, the one last thing that I always ask is that once we finished our conversation or our kōrero, that you take one more deep breath in and out, and that just allows me to be able to disconnect from you, because you don't want to have me following you around all day.
and you don't want to be like feeling my energy all day. Well, I just want to say before we finish up, thank you so much for just being amazing and sharing what it is you do, and being such a light in this world for others to, you know, that facilitation that you is one of your gifts is just incredible, because, you know, it's one thing to, as you say, be able to empower others, but it's another thing to be able to hold space to share, to be the messenger for these things, and, you know, and to do it as well, as we talked about, you know, being your Mani-Gen self, to do it in at the same time as all these other things that you do is just amazing. Like, I find that so mind-blowing.
Oh, thank you. I always enjoy sharing time and space.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think I'd say we can probably wrap it up, I reckon, because we can we can end that podcast recording on that kind of note. Yeah, we can let you carry on with your beautiful day.
So I'm so excited to see where these messages, where they lead.
Yeah.
Where they go to.
I know. It's very cool. It's like I said before, it's kind of a strange feeling to know that something you've never kind of touched or been involved with before is kind of such a big part of it all. But then it was the same feeling when human design first came along, that I was like, just to go from like nothing to 100, like practically overnight.
Yeah, but for me too, it just the messages that come through around that mentorship, because that's what people are seeking.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, people are seeking, because we have a lot of stuff. Human design is out there. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much more common than 3 months ago.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
in my communities, because there are many.
Yes.
There's so much more conversation happening around human design. And for me, because I'm passionate about things Māori, every Māori person that I've connected with has commented about how transformational it has been, because it's almost like I can accept this body.
Yeah.
I can accept this, that this is the way that I've been designed, which has been cool. Like, for me, especially as Wahine Māori, and the things that I do, advocacy for, within that space has been amazing. But when that message comes through for you around the mentorship, I see significant value within that. Because it's one thing to learn it's one thing to learn, but to be put in a space where you're able to mentor the tool and then your own gift, it ensures the change that we need. Like, that is from a Māori perspective, the change that we need to get to where it is that I know we can get to.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really that was really reassuring as well to hear that, because I knew that was something that I'm here to be exploring. And with the mastermind group that I was setting up, it was kind of that soul lesson, that it was like, yeah, I had like 15 women all wanting in, but the reality was that their human existence was like, only one of them actually pressed go on it.
Yeah.
And the rest all kind of went, yeah. And then at the very last second said, actually, shit, no, I can't.
Yeah.
And I don't hold anything against anyone for that, because I'm like, obviously it just means that the core of what I had going on there just needs to be, done in a way that maybe more accessible to people. Yeah.
I think too, like what you were saying, this is not even in terms of mentorship. This is not about, yes, it is somebody that's at the beginning of, but it's the beginning of human design, not of their spiritual journey.
Yeah. So it's like bringing what they already kind of are confident with, and then going, here's how you can kind of like, I don't even know the right word, like supercharge your own impact. So it's like, much like you say, I'm just empowering you to go and do what you need to do. Like, if you never need to talk to me again, that's perfect, kind of thing. I've done my job.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, which is cool. I mean, it makes, even though you were reading for me on the other day, it kept coming through. And then I was like, what's it about?
Yeah. Like, what is this? Like,
Because I haven't got the patience to mentor people.
yeah. Like, I just want to like do the quick burst and then.
Yeah, but then, so now it makes sense. But the other thing is too, is that there's a lot of like there's communities, like we all have our communities, different communities and stuff like that. But as like spiritual colleagues, people say that there's a platform, but what I know is that what happens when we look around us, what happens is that people can see the way that I do what I do is that the people that come to me for coaching, they can be in any different space in their journey, but it's a short burst to be like, well, actually, holding up a mirror here, what is it that you're bringing to the table? Like, I'm not here to teach. There's an element of teaching, but I'm teaching from your own stuff to self. And we've got so many to learn how to do this and learn how to do that. But when you think about your colleagues, where are they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Colleagues in terms of, I do human design, you do human design, this person does soul mapping, this person does this, but we're just sitting next to each other acknowledging that we have our own uniqueness, and that this isn't about I need to learn that modality or I'm using that to measure my own, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about having a coffee together and just say, man, I've done some amazing work last week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And creating that space where people can almost like feel safe to talk about the challenges as well as the wins. Because yeah, as you say, there's kind of this, everybody's sort of doing their own thing, but there's that pressure to not be real about the shit that's like really challenging.
Yeah.
Or the frustrations or whatever. Yeah. I've definitely been that made a lot of sense for me of not
what I
only doing
like
that online, but like potentially doing something that's like in person get-togethers as well.
Yeah. Because what I like about your podcast, like when I listen to your podcast, what I like about it is it's currently the only space where it's not about you teaching, or this. It's the one space where I'm like, cool, I'm sharing space with my colleague that is versed in human design, and I'm learning in a way in which that we're colleagues.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the only one podcast that I currently listen to that comes from that perspective.
Yeah. Rather than, as you say, like feeling like, I don't know what the right word is, but like that you're always being kind of like sold to the whole time, you know, going like, this is my way of teaching that I'm trying to sell you. It's like just going, well, actually.
And this is of no disrespect to anybody. This is no disrespect to anybody.
Yeah.
But even when you invited me, and even when I've listed different people that I've heard you, you know, that you've interviewed and stuff like that, what I like about it is that you're just saying, yeah, this is Mary. This is what Mary does. That's cool. How do you know? And then using your perspective and them using their perspective to have this conversation around spirituality is okay. It's fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's you know, there is this other stuff to it, but it's do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely do. And that makes me really happy to know that that's coming across, because that was one of the main things that when I kind of decided to do it, I was like, I don't want it to be an hour every week where it's like, I'm going to teach you this thing and then tell you to go buy my program. Like, that's not what it's about. It's like, hey, how can we share our stories? Someone's going to listen to it and go, oh my God, I connect with that person because they're a manager and they also work a 9 to 5 and then have their like other thing that they do on the weekends. And that's okay for me to feel like that. Yeah.
Which is and because for me, I've been doing this shit for a long time. Sorry to call it shit, but I've been doing what I do for a long time, and I don't want to be taught anything. You know what I mean? We are learning, but I'm sort of like, well,
like you don't need to be taught how to like set up your morning routine, and you don't need to be taught how to like be mindful during your day. Like, you know, the days that you're doing it and you're not doing it, and like
that's the bit. So those are the things that, and so many of the people that we both follow, they're moving into that space. They've created these really amazing modalities and the way that they work, and it'll keep transforming and changing, but the core of it, you know, that foundation of it is solid, and they'll just go into different spaces because it gives different perspective, you know, for people around sharing the message. Same message, just different ways to do it. You know, we're here to do, there's the purpose, same purpose, different ways to be able to do it. More and more people are coming to that place.
Yeah. I know. Amazing. Well, yeah.
This has been great. Thank you so much.
No, it's been so fun. I feel like I haven't really, you know, because I've been sort of like purposely having some downtime because I've got quite a busy weekend, and it's like funny because it's like I feel like just my whole week has been like getting to sit and just have like these amazing
Same here. I've got a board meeting I've got to attend this afternoon for my 9 to 5. And then my husband's like, are you going to be all right doing that? And then going into your board meeting? I'm like, I'm a managing. I'm all good.
I can do it all. Yeah. Well, thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This has been amazing, Rose. Bye.
So, how amazing, right? I was really kind of, as you probably heard, I kind of got to a point where I was just lost for words, really, with how beautiful that was, how just epic the work that Patsy does is, and how moving, how powerful, how considerate as well. Like, you can feel her just loving, calm, clear energy that comes through. She's just such an incredible soul, an incredible person. I feel so privileged and grateful to have people like her in my life. And, you know, we've never met in person. We've only ever chatted over Zoom. And we've only known each other for, a few months, but we certainly both feel like we know, our souls have known each other for a much longer time than that. So I am so grateful to be able to share this incredible woman with you. I really hope you loved tuning in and hearing that and being able to hear just the process, because I know I myself have found it really powerful to be able to listen in and just, get a feel for how some of these things look and feel, when other people experience them and go through them. Because I think especially when you're just on that beginning journey of exploring maybe your own spiritual, connections, your own gifts, your own, abilities, it can just be so powerful to have other people that sort of expand that journey for you. I call them expanders. You might have heard me use that phrase before, that just being able to see and hear the experience as a kind of like curious explorer, being able to sort of tune in. I just know in my own experience over the years, that's been really powerful for me. And I think it just helps to, when we're first on this path, like we sometimes don't know, there's a lot of that self-doubt that creeps in about who am I to start exploring this path. Like, is it for me? Am I going to be, kind of laughed at for even entertaining exploring and asking these questions and seeking clarity? So I just wanted to share this episode with you. I'm so grateful to Patsy for being open to sharing with you as well. And if you are beginning on your journey, if you have had those feelings of like, I'm kind of feeling like I want to do this, but I don't know, something's holding my back, I'm just not sure, I just want to say that please, if you feel any kind of pull or nudge or curiosity, indulge that. Allow yourself to explore that side of you. Even if all it is that you maybe get a reading and then, that's as far as it goes, like that's perfectly fine. Or it might be that you get a reading and then in a year's time, you might go, oh, okay, now I'm ready to keep exploring that path. Like everyone's timing is right for them and in alignment for them. So I think the biggest message here is just to give yourself permission to explore, to have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, that's, our souls are here to do everything with a bit of, lightness to it, right? It doesn't have to be so heavy. It doesn't have to be so serious. It doesn't have to be so kind of, there is no one box if you are a spiritual person. You can be a lawyer, you can be a teacher, you can be a doctor, you can be anything in the world and be someone who has the openness and the desire to be in touch with spirituality, guides and the universe. And, it's like, this is the beautiful nuance that we get to all live out as humans. We're all these, we're all just these souls come down here, put on these little human suits, and we're just roaming around, living out these lifetimes, learning things. Our souls are learning. We're learning by doing. And so at the end of the day, we are all just part of this great one cosmos, right? So, have the freedom, give yourself the freedom, the permission to explore if you're feeling called. And I know if you've sat and you are still listening to this right now, that you are that person. So give yourself the permission to. Of course, we'll put all of Patsy's links, all of the places you can connect with her, where you can book a reading with her as well. As you heard me say at the start, like literally that's how we connected, that I just pretty much followed her on Instagram and the next day was like, hey, I want to get a reading. So, there is no prerequisite to have to know someone for, months and years in advance or to be talking all the time. Like it is, just in the right timing for you. If you're feeling that nudge, allow yourself to explore, open up to your curiosity, because there's a reason you've got that curiosity, right? It's not just by chance. So give yourself that permission slip to explore that today. I'm just so grateful, so lit up, and just so I feel so privileged to be able to sit here behind a microphone, and share this with you all. So I do hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, as always, you know where to find me. My DMs are always open. My email inbox is always open. Come and say hi. If you listened in and loved this episode, please make sure to screenshot and tag us. So you've got myself, Rose Tautari, and you've got the Voyaging Soul on Instagram. You can tag us both. Tell us what you loved. Tell us if there was any real revelation moments that you had while you were listening in. Just thank you so much for being here. Of course, if you love the podcast and you're loving what you're listening to, and you've got time, like 2 minutes, I'd love it if you could rate and review the podcast. These sorts of things help for, just getting out to a wider audience, being discovered by more people who are on this path of curiosity and exploration and self-discovery and soul connection, right? So all those little things do add up. They're not the reason I do this podcast, you guys know that, but they do help along the way to just share it with others, right? Because that's really what we're here to do, is share all these experiences in this lifetime. So I am going to wrap it up for this week. Sending you so much love, big virtual hugs through the microphone, and I will see you on the next episode.